Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we are going to start chapter number 7, that is high and low level languages. And in this chapter we are going to learn or study about the different languages which had been used in computer programming and which have been used now in modern world for the purpose of different types of tasks, right? So let's begin the session. Basically, what is the language in general? In our own definitions, we consider language as a mode of interaction in which we share ideas with other people. The basic purpose of a language is to convey message from one person to other person. A language may be verbal, a language may be sign language. That is the general introduction of a language. But when it comes to the side of computer science, it is considered as programming language. What is programming language? A programming language is a mode of interaction between user and computer. Means it is a bridge, it is a communication path through which a computer operator tells the computer about his or her requirements. So programming language is the base of the interaction, or it is a mode of interaction between a machine and a human. What is the purpose of a programming language? The purpose of a programming language is to enter instructions into the computer system. Means with the help of different types of hardware, a programming language can be used to enter instructions into the computer system. Means to tell the computers about the task we want the computer system to attend. Okay, in computer science, there are two major types of programming languages. One is considered as low-level languages and the next is high-level languages. Low-level languages is also divided into two subtypes, that is machine languages and assembly languages. Low-level languages, these languages are considered as difficult to learn by a computer operator. Means the learning of low-level languages is very difficult for the computer operator. Special types of codes are used and special hardware is needed. According to point number 3, needs special hardware. It means low-level languages have different versions, and these different versions can only be operated through different types of computers. Means a computer has its own low-level language. One low-level language cannot be used on multiple computers. Now, the first subtype of low-level language is machine language. What is a machine language? It is a mode of interaction between a computer hardware and computer operator. These languages are based on binary and hexadecimal codes, which we already have stated in chapter number 1. Binary and hexadecimal codes were used, which are still very difficult to understand or to learn by the computer operators. Then long and short strings of binary or hexadecimal values are used according to requirements. Means a huge group or a very tiny group of binary or hexadecimal numbers were used to enter instructions into the computer system. Means the whole instruction that is going to be entered into the device, into the machine through machine language was based on either binary language, means only zeros and ones, or either hexadecimal codes, means very much difficult programming in the earlier stages. Then the same issue needs special hardware. A computer system, old computer system has its own machine language. Single machine language cannot be used for multiple computer systems. Translators are not required by the machine since hexadecimal codes and binary codes are own codes of machine, are own codes of a computer system. Then there is no need of a translator. Now, assembly language, statement number one is very much important. The codes, low-level language codes, which were used in assembly languages, were known as mnemonics. Keep the word in your mind. It can be a part of your paper for 1 mark. Spelling is Mnemonics, but the pronunciation is mnemonics. Starting M is silent. Mnemonics, and the pronunciation is mnemonics. Means the codes which were designed for assembly languages were known as mnemonics. It can be a part of your paper like the codes used in assembly languages are known as dash. What will be the answer of the dash? Mnemonics. Mnemonics, mnemonics. Assembly language based on special codes called mnemonics, right? It is far easier than machine languages, but it was still very difficult to understand and learn by computer operator. The requirement of this special hardware was same, means one assembly language can be used on only one computer. Since it is not the own language of a machine, it is not the own language of computer system. That's why it is slower than machine language. Machine language is the faster language to be processed by a machine. But the entering instruction is a difficult task. So the fastest computer language is machine language. Then the second number, high speed language is assembly language. Assembly languages are slower in process than machine languages. And since it is specially designed, then translator is required. And the translator used with assembly languages is assembler. What is the purpose of assembler? It is used to translate mnemonics into machine codes. Anything that is not in the machine code form or entered into the computer system, it must be converted into machine code. And for this purpose, assembly language codes means mnemonics used assembler. What is the purpose of assembler? Assembler is used to convert mnemonics into machine codes for processing. An extra task means conversion of mnemonics into machine code is included. That's why assembly languages are considered as slower than machine languages because one task is included, one task is added of translation. Then high level languages, these are user friendly languages, right? Based on human languages means modern English language words are used. These languages are far easier to learn by computer operator, means learning of machine language is the most difficult task, learning of assembly language is a difficult task, and learning of high level languages are easier, means you can easily learn high level languages if you are interested. They can be learned easily, can be debugged in shorter time. Shorter time means if programming or if your program contains error. Keep one thing in your mind, in programming, occurrence of error is considerable. Means there is a possibility of error occurrence. And the process of removing error is called debugging. No special hardware is required, means a single high-level language can be installed, can be used on multiple computer systems. There is no issue or there is no mandatory machine for high-level languages. If you have a computer system, a laptop, a desktop computer system, then you can easily install any type of programming language according to your requirements in your machine. Since it is in user understandable form, so to convert it into machine language, translators are required. Two types of translators are used with high level languages. One is compiler and other is interpreter. Now, program. What is a program? Basically, a program is a set of multiple instructions. It can be a single instruction or it can be a multiple instruction that is going to be fed or that is going to be fed into a computer system. Means if we are entering instructions into the computer system through a programming language, then this action is called a program. A program may consist of single instructions or multiple instructions, and it tells a computer, it orders a computer to perform different types of tasks. So basically, what is a program? A program is a single instruction or a set of multiple instructions which is entered into a computer system by computer programmer, and these instructions tells the computer about the task to be performed. That is a program. Now translators, what are translators? These are special purpose programs. I have talked about assembler, compiler and interpreter. These are special purpose programs, and the purpose of these programs is to convert assembly language and high level language codes into machine codes, because everything that is entered into the computer system must be converted into binary or hexadecimal codes. Otherwise, it is not going to be processed. Keep this thing in your mind. Everything that is being entered by computer operator into the computer system must be converted into machine codes, either binary or hexadecimal. Otherwise, it is not going to be processed. So for this purpose, a computer system use translators. What are translators? Translators are special types of programs, and the job of a translator is to convert an assembly language code or a high level language code into machine code. Translators are required by computer system, and each programming language that we install in our computer system has its own translator. Means during the installation of a programming language, translator of the same language is also installed. Then types of translators, we have three types of translators basically. First type is assembler, that is used with assembly languages only. Each assembly language version has its own assembler. The other two types of translators, compilers and interpreter, these are associated with high level languages. And high level languages use one translator at a time, either compiler or interpreter. Right? Compiler and interpreter both are associated with high level languages, and one high level language uses one translator at a time. It will be either compiler or interpreter. Now, what is assembler? A type of translator that translates mnemonics. What are mnemonics? Codes of assembly languages. So it is used to translate mnemonics into machine codes. It creates an object file, means when we type a program on any version of assembly language and we do save it Two files will be saved. One is called source file or source code. The other is called object file or object code. Source file is based on mnemonics and object file is based on its translated version into machine language. So keep one thing in your mind. When we type a program on any of the versions of assembly language and save it, two files will be saved. One file will be in the form of assembly language code, that is called source code, and one file, other file, that will be saved with the main code is called object file or object code, and that file will be in the form of machine code, or we can say that either in binary or hexadecimal code. Single statement is converted into binary or hexadecimal code. Program execution is very fast. Means each and every statement that is included in our program will be converted into binary or hexadecimal code according to requirement to be processed by computer system. And the program execution means processing of the program and producing output. What does program execution means? Processing of a program and processing of the instructions and generation or production of output. That is called program execution. Then compiler, it is used with high level languages, means it is used to convert high level language code into machine code. The same process applies with compiler, that when we type a program on a compiler based high level languages and we save it, two files are saved. Again, two files are saved. In the case of compiler as a translator, two files are saved. One is source code and one is object code. Single statement is converted into multiple machine code instructions. Program execution is very fast. Used at the execution stage by the buyer. Means when we run a program, when we execute a program, compiler works more fast than interpreters. Interpreters are slower than compiler. Then interpreter, what is an interpreter? It is another type of high level language translator, right? It does not create any object file. When we type a program on any interpreter based language and we save it, only one file is saved. And that file is called source code. Object file is not produced. Single statement is converted into multiple machine code instructions. Program execution is very fast and it is used at the development stage. Means it is better if you are designing any code, if you are constructing any software, it is better to use interpreter as compared to compiler. So at the development stage, mostly programmers uses interpreter as a translator. Now, error. What is an error? Mistake in a code or a program. During typing a program, there might be a possibility of spelling mistakes. There might be a possibility of disobeying programming rules. These issues are considered as error. There are two types of errors included in programming languages. One error is called syntax error and the other error is called logical error. Then what is a syntax error? A syntax error is a mistake in a program due to which output is not generated. Right? If a syntax error is appeared or is occurred in our program, then output of the program will not be produced, right? In case of compiler, if you are using compiler, then output will not be generated. And if a program is typed on an interpreter based language, then the output of the program is produced before the error. Means if you type a program of 5 lines on an interpreter based language and the error is placed or is produced at line number 3, then output of line number 1 and output of line number 2 will be produced in case of interpreter. Compiler will not produce any output in case of syntax error. But if you type a program on an interpreter based language and the error is occurred in the ending lines or in the mid of the program, then the output of the earlier lines, means if you type a program of 10 lines and the error, syntax error, is placed at line number 9, then the output of line number 1 to line number 8 will be produced, right? Syntax error are appears on screens, means we do not need to identify the error. It will be shown on the screen by the translator. Mostly spelling mistakes or misuse of different symbols or operators creates syntax error. Then logical errors, the second type of the error. What is a logical error or what happens in logical error? Output is generated until error is detected but not according to requirements. Means due to logical errors, there is no issue in the generation of output, in the production of output. Translator will produce the output on your screens, but that shall not be according to our requirements. If the output of a program appears on the screen and that is not according to the requirement, it means there is a logical error in the program. Logical errors change the whole scenario, whole output of the program, but output is produced on screen, right? Programmers need to find the error on their own. It is mandatory for the programmer to find the error on their own because translators do not produce logical errors on screen. Syntax errors will be produced on screens by the translators, but translators do not produce logical errors on screen. We need to identify them on our own. Usually, incorrect use of logical symbols or programming statements cause logical errors. Keep one thing in your mind. Syntax error in case of compilers will not produce output. Syntax error in case of interpreter will produce output before the line on which error is present, right? And in case of logical errors, output is produced by translator, right? Output is produced by the programming language, but that will not be according to requirements. Logical errors are not appeared on screen. Programmer needs to find them on their own. Then integrated development environment means when we install a language into our computer system, it comes with its own tools, with its own interaction medium, right? So before starting working on a programming language, the complete tools must be installed into the computer system. It includes editor. On editor means a layout on which we type the code. Translator means whether it is using interpreter, compiler, or assembler. and debugging tools, means due to which syntax errors are produced on screens. That is IDE or Integrated Development Environment. Okay, now class, whole chapter number 7 has been completed. I hope there may not be any issue with you peoples in their understanding of this chapter. One face-to-face class related to this chapter will be done at a school. Thank you everyone.